Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Matt Larissy. Our first session here is Smart Cities. Our speakers for this workshop include Bonnie Graziano and Gary Finger. Bonnie Graziano is an accomplished energy professional with a background in identifying underperforming assets, determining superior investment opportunities, and managing assets for maximum return. Ms. Graziano is an account executive with Energy Systems Group. Gary Finger most recently served as the Business Ombudsman for the Board of Public Utilities and is currently providing consulting services to government entities seeking input to reduce growing energy costs while taking advantage of the state's clean energy program. I would like to thank our speakers for being here today. Thank you. Especially the first session isn't always the easiest, but you get it out of the way, you can enjoy the rest of the conference if you're hanging around. And please make sure everybody scans your badges, get your CEUs. Those are important. We all know that. Thank you and enjoy the session.
So I asked my 15-year-old son if he knew what a smart city was, and he said no. Then I showed him that video, and then asked him, now what do you think a smart city is? And he said, like a technology city? Which is not a bad definition. Before we go further, I have a question for you. How many truly smart cities do you think there are? No, this blank slide is not a mistake. It wouldn't be far from the truth to say none. Why am I saying there are no true smart communities? Because this is what smart communities want to be, a beautifully orchestrated, high-technology city where everything works together smoothly. Unfortunately, this is more like what we get. There's no city today where everything is perfectly integrated. What we have instead is communities that each may have a piece of it. Let's define smart city. A smart city uses information to increase efficiency, share information with the public, and improve quality of services. So basically, it is a lot of sensors collecting the data. Then we transmit and analyze the data, and then we interpret and use the data to make decisions and set controls. Think about some of the high-tech things shown in the video. There was smart street lighting, which turned on or off when it needed to. Parking. Have you ever spent 20 minutes driving around trying to find street parking? Not fun. Smart parking can alleviate this. Smart traffic lights have optimal timing. Regarding water, we can detect leaks in real time. Trash companies were automatically notified when the trash cans were full. And let's not forget electric vehicles and the security features in smart buildings. A key takeaway from this presentation is that smart cities improve livability. Hanging technology on streetlights can be the backbone of a smart city. In addition to lighting controls, this diagram shows digital signage, image sensors, environmental weather sensors, and a 911 call button. Think about where all this is headed. What if we could sense when water levels are rising and predict which streets are going to be flooded and broadcast that message? Smart technologies can be revenue generators. You may have seen various kiosks popping up with digital signage that contain advertisements. These advertisements generate revenues for the community, and some can accept payments for services such as parking. Here's a kiosk in New York City that is replacing over 7,500 payphones across the 5 boroughs. Each kiosk provides super fast, free public Wi-Fi. These kiosks are funded through advertising, and thus far have generated more than $500 million for New York City. You can charge your phone at the kiosk or hit a button to dial 911. You can make free phone calls using the keypad. The kiosk has a microphone, so you can just talk into it, or you can plug in your personal headsets if you want more privacy. The city can use the kiosk to broadcast public service announcements and information on city services, maps, and directions. Kiosks can also contain surveillance cameras to increase safety. Here's one broadcasting the status of subway stations. You may have seen versions of these advertising restaurants and events around a town. However, smart communities are not just about improving the quality of life and livability. The second takeaway from this presentation is that smart city technologies help us to be more resilient. That becoming a smart city is not just about charging your cute little electric car, efficiently finding a parking spot, or knowing when waste bins are full. It's also about what we can do to keep our communities safe and being as prepared as we can for the unforeseen. Webster's definition of resilience is being able to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. The distributed energy resources shown in this picture are solar, wind, and CHP, combined heat and power, otherwise known as cogeneration. And there's battery storage, which is important because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. There are controls, which monitor and balance all the resources. And there's an office building, which represents the critical infrastructure as the electric load. This system is now resilient because it can supply its own power if the local electricity grid is disabled. And thus, even in the midst of an emergency, this town continues to be livable. New Jersey has currently earmarked $2 million to do town center microgrid feasibility studies for the town centers of 13 public entities. Listed in this diagram are the areas being studied. Instead of putting all our eggs in one basket, we want to have our eggs in many baskets so that we will always have power for our critical facilities. And the 13 public entities taking advantage of about $150,000 grant each for the study are Atlantic City, Camden County, Cape May County MUA, Galloway Township, the Borough of Highland Park, Hoboken, Hudson County, Township of Middletown, Montclair, Neptune Township, City of Patterson, Department of Treasury, and the Township of Woodbridge. In this slide, the New Jersey agencies in yellow are collaborating with the federal agencies shown in green. Together, they're finding ways to use combined heat and power, fuel cells, and solar power with battery storage backup as power generation for critical facilities. The third takeaway is that smart cities are also all about sustainability. When we think of sustainability, we think of clean air, fresh water, clean energy, garbage in its proper place, all giving us a healthy place to live and work. We want our improvements to be long-lasting, and we want to be mindful of the effects of our actions in the long run. Here are some of the forces driving local governments to smart communities. Rundown towns in need of development, too much traffic, how can we manage this better? We have concerns for public safety. Unfortunately, we are living in an era of active shooter drills. Millennials are technology savvy, and they are pushing us to accommodate the future. And wouldn't it be awesome if we could be able to tell when a section of town was going to flood and alert everyone? I'd like to talk about Kansas City because they are a standout in that the mayor has made smart cities their #1 initiative. They've issued an RFP seeking a smart city partner, and that winner will provide a fully integrated suite of sensors, networks, data, and analytics so that they can call themselves the first true smart city in the world. Notably, Kansas City even has a chief data officer. The chief data officer reports to the mayor, and he works across all departments. He's in charge of privacy and quality of all the city's data sets and how to share that information with the public. Kansas City, LA, Atlanta, New Orleans, Chicago, Seattle, Boston, Cary, North Carolina, Denver, Colorado, Houston, Texas, Las Vegas, San Diego, Washington, D.C., and Austin, Texas. Aside from all the pie-in-the-sky futuristic technologies, what can a community do realistically? If you have decorative street lighting owned by the town, you can retrofit them with LED and save a lot of money immediately, but also you can use that as a platform for future smart add-ons. Other technologies currently available include interactive kiosks, public Wi-Fi, solar power, and EVs. Overall, we want to encourage you to view all of your facility improvements from a strategic, holistic point of view rather than a reactive, ad hoc, piecemeal way. The goal is to integrate all of the smart technology pieces so that they work together like a beautiful symphony or an everything is awesome Lego city. And once you know what you want to do, how can you pay for all this? Here's Gary Finger.
Besides being the former business ombudsman of the Board of Public Utilities and representing the Clean Energy Program, I was also a five-time elected official and former mayor of Voorhees Township. So there's a lot of issues that Bonnie talks about when she talks about smart cities that hit close to home. I understand how this could possibly work, and it varies from town to town. Not every town has a downtown district. Not every town has issues where they're looking at flooding. So these things all have to be kind of created, carved to suit the needs that you have. So where's the money to do all this? She's got a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of huge opportunities, but as financial officers, you're saying, I don't have any money now, and you want to go do this? Right. So there are a variety of programs in the state that you have access to now. They're able to fund projects that you may have. I'm going to skip the ESA program for briefly. NJIB, which deals with transportation infrastructure and wastewater management. So your MUAs all have sources to go to. This has been a very successful program. If you go to their website, you'll see a lot of examples where they, ACUA right here outside of Atlantic City, got funding for a project that was $1.5 million, so that they can keep advancing, keep staying ahead of what's going on. NJEDA always has new programs. You want to take a look at that. Where can you get some of the grant funding available for these things? The Microgrid Town Center Zone, they're in the first phase of the microgrid feasibility studies. Those studies are starting to come in now. What's happening next? Well, they need a few more steps, but that is something to watch. What Bonnie's trying to highlight to you is be aware of what's available. It is changing. It becomes where the next set of priorities are. The Community Collaborative Initiative, DEP has P3 legislation. That is a public-private partnership where you can work with outside vendors to come in and do the work for you in a cooperative manner. That is a phenomenal piece of legislation. Sustainable Jersey. I have to ask this question. How many towns are part of the Sustainable Jersey program? Okay, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, talk to the people who did, because they also have grant monies and they have a lot of really great ways that you can advance a lot of what your goals are through initiatives that they've done in the past. So you don't want to overlook that. So again, the investment bank, or infrastructure bank, is a phenomenal source to go to. I'm not going to spend much time on it. They actually have a kiosk out here. So what kind of projects are we talking about? We're really talking about, if you can think about it, if you can think about something that you want, you're going to find a program that's going to help support it. You're going to find money that can be there to get you through the project and the expertise to do it. It's not just solar. So Bonnie had mentioned about what we can do with battery storage and what we're going to be able to do with EVs. These are all programs coming to fruition now. What is ESA? Anybody understand, or has anybody ever worked with the ESA program in the state of New Jersey, Energy Saving Improvement Program? Nobody? All right. The Energy Saving Improvement Program was a piece of legislation that went through twice. The most recent one was 2012, which puts the authority in the hands of the BPU. This is a way that you can fund your energy-related projects, substantial projects, without incurring new debt. So you don't have to worry about your caps in the event of school districts. If you're working with them, they don't have to worry about referendums. This is a program designed to pay for itself with the energy savings that you will be gaining through these projects. I'm going to jump over this one real fast for a good reason. The New Jersey Clean Energy Program has a suite of programs that you pay for. You've done this through your societal benefits charge. If you have not taken advantage of them, please take a look at that, because you can gain substantial information and a roadmap of how you proceed with this. And that includes, gee, do I want to get involved with the next step and start to work with smart cities? There's programs that will help look at that. You want to start with a local government energy audit. You're going to love this word. It's free. This is an ASHRAE Level 2 audit. It will cover anything that you've asked them to from a building perspective, multiple buildings, all the energy measures that you currently use, pumps, motors, drives, lighting. If you are interested in solar, is solar an appropriate candidate for your particular site? We've had many instances where entities will say, yeah, we want to put wind turbines up. Okay, they'll look at that. Most cases won't make a whole lot of sense, but they'll look at that. So they'll give you a comprehensive package at the end of the day to say, these are your ECMs, your energy conservation measures that you can take a look at. And by the way, you start looking at the other programs, such as Smart Start, you can get up to $500,000 back on these incentives. So those motors and lightings and chillers, there's money that can go toward that. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of it? A direct install program, it's particularly great for small municipalities where you have a standalone police station or municipal building or public works building. They're go in and pay for 70% of those upgraded costs, 70%. We did this in my town, in Voorhees Township, for our police station. They maxed out for the incentive for $125,000. The project was $153,000. So the balance of the money, and the finance officer, Dean Seminara here by any chance, was really against it. He says, I still have to spend money. I said, no, you happen to be in a territory with South Jersey Gas. They will finance it for 3 years at 0% interest. It was a no-brainer. The payback period was less than 2 years. So that's what you want to look at. Performance-based programming, larger projects, that's $1 million per utility meter that you have. It's a longer process, but you can get a lot of money back. CHP, Bonnie mentioned about what you can do with combined heat and power. I know these are lofty terms that get used, but when you have facilities that are running 24 hours a day, what you want to do is to be able to make sure that they can run all the time. So combined heat and power, on-site generation, if you will, is a way to do that. So that's when you start looking at, and again, this is something that's identified through the audit. So again, why wouldn't you want to do the audit? And then you have companies that come in like an ESG, or there are several other ESCOs that are out there that can look at this comprehensive package and say, this is how we can make you more sustainable. We're going to save you money, and they'll talk to you about paybacks. So these are capital items. How do we affect it? And you have to sometimes think beyond it. We're looking at a whole package. So we are looking at what, it's not just HVAC or lighting. It might be the appearance. It might be how you work with daytiming. It might be how you put the film on the windows. So that is a bigger package. But again, there are professionals that will take a look at that. So the project itself becomes self-funding. There's no upfront cost. Okay? There's no upfront cost. So there's nothing that comes out of your budget. And there's a guarantee. What does that mean? It means if the ESCO performing this project for you does not deliver what they're telling you in savings, state law says the ESCO writes the check for the difference. Has that ever happened? No, because they know what they're doing. They can make these things happen. Renewables. Everybody's interested in what can we do with solar now, because there always is a growing technology that you want to be a part of this. So that's also part of what you can fund in these programs. Battery storage. I saw about a month ago, they're starting to put home battery packs for sale in Home Depot. Imagine what you can do with that on critical facilities. So Bonnie talked a lot about street lighting because that becomes the basis for where you can go with this. This technology actually it's not cutting edge. This has been around for several years now. It's just not being used much in New Jersey. So you can do this. If you own it, if you have a downtown district where you own the decorative street lighting, even if you don't take this next step, you want to look at changing out the decorative lighting, get incentives from the state. Decorative lighting may give you $100 per light to change it out to LED. But the LED is the basis for developing this further. You might be able to do programs which help identify potential gunshots. They're called shot spotters. And that's the basis of starting to build a smart city, smart technology. A lot of the stuff is in place now, just not tied together. So, as I said, ESIP is a way of retrofitting your public buildings. Savings come from the energy that you're saving. This becomes a bundled project. So we look at anything, the state, I should say, looks at anything that you can throw into this package as long as it pays for itself. This must be cash positive. So you're going to have an audit that's performed, a free local government audit. I'll say it multiple times. It's free, folks. That gives you the basis of what can be done. There's a process that you follow with the state. It's on their website. There's an RFP that you can put out, which is already in a template, that you're going to have a series of bidders come in and make proposals to you as to what can be done. It's usually more than what the audit says. And then you're going to get started with hiring an ESCO and developing a plan. So, where are we with this? Well, there's a variety of measures that are going to help fund this, and why we tell you to be very creative is because you can put an awful lot in here. I'm not going to go over all the details. You can work with a variety of funding sources. I know that I had on my previous slide the Energy Resiliency Bank. As of the last time I checked, that bank is right now closed. They may open that up again. So funding comes, funding goes, but you can work all these in conjunction with a particular program. What ESIP does is it allows you to set the structure. ESIP doesn't give you the money, it sets the structure for it. But the nice thing is you cannot lose money. If you work with an ESCO, an Energy Savings Corporation, Energy Savings Company, they're going to do everything from beginning to end, soup to nuts. They'll put together a package, doing one in Atlantic City right now, which is about a $9 million project, and that covers things like street lighting. They covered a variety of the city hall, fire stations. Again, anything that they could throw into there, which is usually what we advocate. The other option you could do under this ESIP program is you can do it yourself. You can go out and hire your own people. The downside that we usually see in this program, and people really don't like to do it, there's no guarantees. So if the project gets off track at the end of the day and you end up and it costs more money, there's no guarantees to put it back on. So we like to see people, we usually recommend people to work with ESCOs or to do what's called a hybrid method, where you're working with your professional engineers or your architects, that they will go out and put together the RFP. They'll work with an ESCO to make all this happen. There's some real key points on this that you need to know. It's a simplification of what the whole program is, okay? No negative cash flow. What does that mean? Well, after you do all of these measures that are going to run you out for 15 years to pay it back, we look at it, the BPU looks at a chart now that says we cannot show a negative cash flow in any 1 year, or else the project is denied. Capital cost avoidance. Well, you don't want to put avoidance in there for capital cost for the simple reason that after a couple of years, you kind of forget about it, and now you're going to be spending more money. The board doesn't even allow it anymore. It didn't make sense. The original legislation did. We made a series of changes at the time that really protect you as the municipalities. SRECs are not permitted. Why not? We're putting solar in. Why can't I use SRECs? Because SRECs are market-driven. SRECs go high, they go low. Frankly, they're not going high anymore. Right now, they're probably hovering around $180 per SREC per megawatt that's produced. You don't want to factor that into what your savings are, because that could change. That could drop down lower. Nobody really has can make that kind of a firm prediction. So the best way to handle it is don't allow it at all. Third-party review. Once an ESCO comes to you with this project that you're doing for your municipality and all your buildings, and an ESCO says, it's going to cost you $3 million, and you're going to have savings every year of $1 million. How is that a guarantee? Well, you're going to have a third party come in, review that plan, and say, yeah, these numbers are valid. We're going to look at the rates that they're factoring in for electric with a graduated number, with gas with the graduated number, escalation number. So they're looking at that to make sure that these numbers make a lot of sense. The plans can go out to 10 or 15 years or 20 years, depending if you use combined heat and power. This is, I love this slide. This is the best one of all. This is the one that you really want to pay attention to. These are entities in 2014 that went through the entire ESIP process. Most of them are schools, but there are a couple municipalities in there. These have all been measured and verified, which means the numbers that they said that they were going to hit have already been verified. They, in fact, have seen those savings What I want you to look at, though, is the projected guaranteed annual savings. So the ESCO came in and said, based upon the project that we're doing at Barnegat School, you're going to save $317,000 every single year. That's great. The reality is they saved $359,000. Every single one of these projects saved more than what was originally projected because the ESCOs want to be conservative. You cannot lose with this program. So, you know, the numbers are quite staggering. What was verified in 2016 without all the details is over $21 million. There's over 100 entities right now, combination of school districts and municipalities that they're in some part of an ESIP process. If you have a series of buildings, if you have some financial concerns, this is the program you want to start looking at. This is how you're going to pay for it. So when you want to start doing smart cities, how do I work that into here? How do I do the street lighting? Well, if you're going to do street lighting, let's start bundling this whole thing together because it's frankly, you'll be able to justify the cost savings that you're going to have every single year. You cannot lose. Legislation says you cannot, so by statute, you must make money. So the quick takeaway, because I ran through these very quickly and I know that, it starts with a free local government energy audit. You can go to the New Jersey Clean Energy website, NJCEP. There is an application to start the free local government energy audit. This would cover anything that you have within your control. And as an elected official, I like to remind people, it's not just the buildings, folks. Let's take a look at the pumping stations that you have. They are very expensive. They're running constantly. Throw that into the audit. Let's see how old those motors are. Is there a more efficient way we can do that? The audit will identify that. So if you've got lighting on ball fields, let's throw that in there. Just because lights go on, that doesn't mean they're going on well, okay? Because what the technology that you use, be it metal halide, sodium vapor, whatever, they're expensive. And if you can replace that with an LED light and get the same amount of lumens for 2/3 less cost, gee, I don't know, why wouldn't you want to do that? Plus the maintenance issue practically goes away. So as frequently as you may be thinking about replacing these things, you won't have to with LEDs. But I beg you to not just work on lighting alone. Package all this together, because lighting is where we start and can justify doing things like boilers that you have that are 40 years old and have a horrible payback. The windows, which aren't incentivized, but we can bundle that into a package where the lighting helps pay for that. So that's where you want to get a little creative in your thinking. There was never an entity yet in the state that participated in this process that has lost money. None. It's not allowed to happen. So your takeaway becomes there's a lot of phenomenal opportunities that are coming along. Some are available now. You know, Bonnie was talking about battery storage, incredibly exciting. Keep an eye on the state website, Clean Energy, that there may or may not be incentives going forward. If you start looking at, gee, how do I start my smart cities approach? It starts with an audit. Did I mention it was free? Did I say it was free? So that can be taken into account. So as you move forward, you know, microgrids, they're not going to be for everybody. If you've got the right setting, microgrids will make sense. That doesn't mean you can't do smart cities too. They all get tied together. So the opportunities are there. The funding is there. And that is the takeaway that I would like you to have today. I appreciate your time. There was a lot of information. I will have some brochures available afterwards.